Talk. Talk. Talk to me Tuesday.
Hey there, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Madi B, and today we're going to have a very important show. Today we want to really uncover what social media and technology has done to us in this current day and age. Now, technology and social media has been the leading source of communicating, on being social, on advertising, and even marketing. So today we're going to talk about what those effects have caused on any youth, child, and even adult that is using social media and how, rounded up they are in this device. So growing up with a device and things like such and being exposed to it at an early age can cause a lot of things psychologically. So today we actually want to welcome Aaliyah Watson. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank y'all for having me.
It's a pleasure. And look, Aaliyah Watson is a licensed professional counselor supervisor. Her business name is Liaison Counseling Services. So Aaliyah, I want you to go ahead and just tell our viewers what your specialty is and what does this really mean, all your credentials?
Definitely. Like you said, my name is Aaliyah. I go by Leah for short. I am a licensed professional counseling supervisor. What the supervisor part entails is basically that I assist counselors who are just getting into the field and becoming an intern. So they become fully licensed. They have to have somebody over them, which is a supervisor, which is what I do. And I'm a licensed professional counselor. Basically, what I do is mental health and talk therapy. Because I know for sometimes people, they're like, what's the difference between a counselor, a social worker, a psychologist? But me as an LPC, I do a lot of talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. I cannot prescribe any medication. That's always a big question that people ask.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. And this kind of piggybacks our last show. We actually had also a therapist on our show. And so this is great. But now we're talking about the importance on what does our social media, our media, good, bad, the ugly, all of that, what is it doing to our youth? So let's just begin by asking you, what area do you specialize in, or if it's a specific area that you are focused in?
A lot of my specialty is dealing with minority women from the ages of 18 to 65. The reason being their age range is so big because a lot of us are dealing with different things, different life transitions, whether that's from high school to college, from being single to motherhood, college to entering the adult world, being adult, my kids are leaving, or if I'm going through a divorce. These are all issues that us as women face. So I deal with a lot of women's issues, depression, anxiety, work to life balance, a lot of self-esteem issues as well.
Wow, that's awesome. And I know we are going to talk a little bit later in regards to how this specifically affects even gender, race. They're all statistics. However, I know you do look, since you're specialized in a very specific area, I think that's also good that we bring that up. So I want to ask you, Liaison Counseling Services, beautiful name, which is it looks like a part of your name is in there. So I want you to explain to our viewers, what made you open your own practice and where did you get the name from?
Okay, I can start off. When I was in college, I wanted to be a lawyer. I always told everybody I was going to be the first female Johnny Cochran. Like anybody who knows me, like I like to talk. I was in debate in school. Like if I'm right, I'm going to prove my point of if I'm right. And so my last semester of school, I actually ended up doing an internship at a domestic violence shelter. So just realizing how much it meant for people to have somebody to provide words of encouragement for them, providing that support, that accountability, helping them with setting goals and seeing how much that impacted them. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So one of the counselors there asked me, had you ever thought of being a counselor? And, growing up as a minority, like a lot of our parents press, like you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, males, athlete. It was never really presented to me like a counselor. And I was like, like, what's that? Then they started telling me, and I was like, what? I can get paid to talk and help people? Like, shoot, sign me up. And then so I went back to school and I got my master's. And for me, just being a minority woman and seeing some of the issues that I had and that I was struggling with, and those women and just a lot of my peers dealing with them, and not having like somebody like-minded or somebody that you can be compatible with to discuss, it kind of pushed me to want to do it more, because I want to be able to help people. That's another reason why I became a supervisor, because I want to help other minority females or male counselors to show like, hey, this is the way to do it. And also the way to do it, like entrepreneurship is a big thing, and like that it's possible that you can live well and still be a counselor, because a lot of people are like, oh, mental health doesn't pay, because a lot of insurances don't, our government doesn't value it, some workplaces don't value it. So it's showing like how you can still make an impact.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I want to thank you for taking that leap right into this profession to be able to help individuals just by you having that energy, that knowledge, right, and that like-mindedness. I think that's beautiful to kind of hear your story. Now, I want to go ahead and jump into today's topic, which is
wait, I think I skipped one part. You asked me where my name came from.
Oh yeah,
and I did not answer that. Sorry, my business name. If you look at it from afar and it's pronounced the same way, liaison. A lot of people know what a liaison is. It's somebody to kind of assist people with achieving their goals or getting to different resources. So therefore, ultimately, I feel like a therapist or a counselor is a liaison. They're helping you to become in touch with your inner self. And then kind of like, you notice you see my name in there, Leah. And then my main focus for wanting to start my own business and be independent was my son. So therefore, that's why the S is capital, because I do all of this because for my son, to kind of show him and provide a great future for him. So that's how I came up with Liaison Counseling Services.
That is beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Where you got the name, the meaning, the depth of it. I think it's beautiful. And we're definitely here to support what you're doing and,
thank you.
Why. So I think that's awesome. So, going back into today's topic, the effects of social media. Right. Mm-hmm. Some of the things may be positive. I know we want to highlight on some of the effects that we may not even be mindful of. Right. We're probably not even looking at it. So social media can be good for many reasons, as I mentioned, but like staying connected, quick access to information, online learning, marketing, and many more things. Right. There's a lot of pros to this. But let's sit back and think about what are the effects that can happen because of this. Because you're constantly on your phone, and look, your phone tells you your screen time. Okay. So I think
that's what I was about to say. I think that's a big part of it, is like realizing in reality, how much time do we spend on our phone? And a lot of us, we do. A lot of our employers email us, our emails connected to our phone. We're GPSing, we're searching for lunch, we're texting friends, we're on Instagram. Like, I think we underestimate how much time like that we really spend like this.
Correct. And I think this is great points, because it's all of that can do something like in the psychology fashion, right? I want you to kind of talk a little bit about that, but I want to talk and really be specific on what the technology industry includes. So we want to go back a couple of years, right? Before the 2000s, where Google came, where emails came. And then in the 2000s came social media. I don't know if any of you guys remember, but MySpace was one of the first.
That's where it all started. That's I remember having that in high school. It was like the instant messenger. And then it was MySpace. Yes.
Instant messenger. I forgot about that one. Some people watching may say, I didn't know MySpace. Some people may be too young for that, right? But it did start with that. And it opened up this world, right? This world that I don't even know if we knew how technology was going to unfold to the social media, right? All these apps. It became an app thing. It became you living off of your phone, just like you mentioned. So I really want to tap into this. I want to have a very transparent conversation, because we could help someone that's out there listening and watching and may not recognize how it's already affecting them, either with their interpersonal skills or psychologically. So Tell us your thoughts, Aaliyah, on, technology from the past versus today and even in the future, right? I don't even know what we got to look forward to.
I feel like right now, like social media and technology is like an evil necessity. Like even whenever you're saying going back to the history, like I even think of like my time period of when it started. Like MySpace, it was just me and a few high school friends. Then I remember when I went off to college and it was like, Facebook is like exclusive. It's only for like people who go to college. Like you have to have like a university ID. So it's like you always felt like you were in. And then after a while, it's like, oh, well, my mom's on here, like my little brother, like my little cousin's on here. And then now you go to Instagram. And then now it's like people are monetizing off Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, things like that. So it's like there's this obligation of like, if I want to be in, this is what everybody's doing. Like I even think of like little kids, like my niece, for example, she's getting ready to turn 13. Her mother doesn't allow her on TikTok or doesn't allow her on Instagram, but there's that feeling of inferiority to her peers because everybody else has it. Whenever everybody else is like, oh, did you see the video I shared with you? She's kind of like, everybody else is sitting around laughing, but then there's that whole feeling of being left out.
Yeah. Look, I think that's a great point that you're bringing up. And let's take a minute and step back. Even our babies are starting off with the devices in YouTube, right?
Guilty.
You being a mother, you could probably relate. So I remember back in the past, the kids and babies, and even, I used to play outside all the time. I wasn't locked in a device. And if it was a TV. And now this is what it's capturing their attention to.
That's what we introduced them to first thing. Like,
exactly.
What's the new one? Coco Melon or something like that. Like from whenever I had my son, it was like the Mouseketeers, like the Mickey Mouse. But like, that's unfortunately sometimes what we have to do. Like I was guilty of it. I was a single mother. Like if I wanted to take an actual bath and get to thoroughly bathe myself, you know what? You want to watch this show for 15 minutes so that I could at least just do the bare essentials. So it's like, unfortunately, we ingrained some of these things in them. Like I can't be mad at my son, like when all you want to do is watch TV. But like I kind of started that foundation.
Yeah. And I think that's important for parents to kind of either parents, future parents, or even, mothers to be right now to kind of look to see what is those parameters that you want to set, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it becomes, I'm going to say, too easy, right? To kind of carve out. It's a little bit more work to try to do things, maybe painting or something like that. I'm just kind of throwing out ideas. But I want to kind of get your feedback and your opinion. How does these things require, social media requires a lot of either kids, adults to engage. Okay. It shocks me because I see some of my friends' kids, these babies with one finger can navigate your whole system. And I'm like, did you just unlock
my son? I don't know are you in Texas?
I'm not.
Okay. Well, in Texas, maybe about, in February, we had like the winter freeze. Everything froze, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. We are in Texas. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we had that freeze. So, of course, with no electricity, your Wi-Fi goes off. My son figured out how to create a compilation of like videos from his picture. And I'm like, just because he had no Wi-Fi. So for him, there was nothing else to do. So then he figured out how to watch iMovie. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like 30 plus. And I've been trying to figure iMovie out for like 6 months. How did you get it? But I mean, that's what they know better. Like he knows how to operate that. Like you said, growing up, that's not what we did.
Right. And look, now some of these devices require people to engage. Look, you said it earlier to where it was more exclusivity. I remember you need to have your student ID on your university to get into Facebook. And now it's all about how many friends do you have? And when you get to 1 million, you have more ability to see more things. It's almost like you have to have more friends versus the exclusivity in the past. So a lot of these things require people to engage. And I want you to tell us a little bit about what is this engaging, whether it's liking, sharing, commenting, all of that. What does that do psychologically?
I think even though we're saying that it went away from the whole thing of exclusivity. I think it didn't. Because even engaging, if somebody talks back to you, it feels like there's a sense of camaraderie, or like we're friends, or like I'm getting to know you better. Like even us as common people, now we have more access to celebrities. Like we can see their picture, we can comment under it, and they might write me back. They might like it. Like I feel included. Like I feel special. Like I think that's the whole thing about engagement, making people feel unique.
Yeah, I think you're totally right.
Or even not even feel unique, feel included, maybe even as such.
And I think we're going to talk about that here, the being included and also the celebrity. I want to kind of hold that here in a second. But social media, right? We're talking Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's YouTube. There's many more that I'm not even naming. Okay, there's a lot of apps. There's a lot.
I lose track of them because, like, me and my friend were talking about like Clubhouse that came out of nowhere, and like I think it's gone, or maybe it's not. But there's a lot of them.
But see, those things like that. Let me ask you this: can social media, in your opinion, be addicting, and if so, how so?
100% it's addicting. We've had to create now, and even in mental health, we're starting to try to acknowledge this term as a real thing. FOMO would not have been created without social media. Like it's a real issue for people. So yes, it's very addicting. Like I want to know what's going on. I don't want to miss the notification. And now, especially with live, I don't want to miss so-and-so go live, because what are they going to say? What information are they going to give? So it's definitely very addicting. And then also, I'm not very versed on this, so if I say something that doesn't sound right, excuse me. But I really believe that like these algorithms that they create on Instagram and Facebook, they make sure that they keep it addicting. Like, hey, I just researched Rihanna's Fenty face wash in my Safari. Next thing you know, here on my timeline, oh, it's a video of how to use this product or before and after results of this product. So I feel like it's the algorithm that they set up that like it keeps us. It's what I want. Like I'm not a fan of race cars, right? However, I'm a fan of I'm a fan of like fashion. So if you look on my page, there's nothing but fashion. You're not going to see a race car that's going to appear because that's not in the algorithm that I clicked on. So therefore, for something to be addicting, it's going to be consistently what you want and to want to consistently keep you engaged yet again.
Yeah, and look, you bring up a great point. I know the algorithm goes really deep into the coding, and the algorithm even looks to see what picture you've selected on your phone and how long you're looking at that picture, and how either you swipe and go to something else. Everything is down to a science, down to a data, which I think that is very interesting on how they've built this.
It's kind of scary sometimes. Kind of scary.
And I know a lot of people say exactly what you said. I'm just talking about this, and I go on my Instagram and I see the same shoes that I was just talking about, right? So that is something that we need to be mindful of. There is certain things that you could turn off on your phone, but it is, you know, very active, and they want to make sure the algorithm is constantly on your trends, what you like, what is it that you're looking at, all that good stuff. So now I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. How can this also affect an individual on how they view themselves, whether it's social media and their self-image, seeing always, you know, a certain type of world in this device that may seem like norm, not.
It's major. I mean, even for you as a woman, like, unfortunately right now we're in the age of like plastic surgery. Like, I feel like I'm an average size female, but if I get on social media and I see like Lori Harvey, one of the City Girls, like everybody is just stacked, perfect white teeth, and then I go look in the mirror and it's kind of like, well, you know, you got that little flab there. But if I wouldn't have saw that, there's not a comparison. Or even, and I'm not going to guilt any of these sites because like I'm like my guilty pleasure, the Shade Room. I love it. It's all that. But it even kind of who wore it best, who did this look best. Like it's like thriving on comparison.
Yeah, I think
that's what we see. And then we naturally compare ourselves because, hey, my picture only got 30 likes, but oh my God, look at her body. And she got 30,000 likes. So I bet you if I had a body like that, I could probably get more likes than that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good, you know, comment that you said in regards to that, because we are comparing ourselves to, is it the real world, right? Is everything you see on your device real? But when you walk
Mhm.
out, everyone's normal, right? There's people with all kinds of skin types, body shapes, all of that. And what we are being, I feel like, fed or we see that is more common is not what society brings. So I think that's a very good point. It's like we're comparing ourselves to something that's maybe a cyber world.
And I want to touch on something that you said. And this is something that I preach to my clients all the time. How do you know that it's real? Do you know how many apps there are that can change your skin tone, change your waist size? I can post a picture that I took 3 months ago or 3-4 years ago of when my body was good, but yet I'm sitting here eating a soda ice cream. Like, that's one thing I ask. How do you know that's real? How do you know like what they wasn't going on before they took that picture? How do you know what the background is? And sometimes I recommend people use that to bring you back to reality.
I think that's a good point because not only that, Aaliyah, is that there's also a lot of filters. So the filters also, while we probably think it is real, the filter just made it look distorted, right? It's not real.
There's so many filters I didn't even know about. I went on a boat trip with some friends this weekend, and one of the girls was like, "Oh, girl, I'm about to make this picture snatched in like 5 minutes," and we were like, "Ha, whatever." Baby, it sucked it all. Like it worked miracles. Like part of me was like, I even asked her, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what's the name of that app? But then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not even tech savvy enough. Like, let me stick with my Snapchat filters. But that's another thing. There's a lot of stuff, but we really don't know. Because it's not like you use the filter and then on the picture it says in fine print, this body was created by this app. Like, we don't really know. So that's why one of my questions I always tell my clients is, how do you know that that's reality?
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, not to be sold on what you think is reality, because on the other side of that screen may be something different. That's a really good point. Now, you did talk a little bit about the celebrity side. I want to get into that. Now, it is, in my opinion, a little too easy to get in contact with anyone, right? People from your high school, from your college, Kim Kardashian, NBA players, etc. So this space of social media is very easy for people to also attack and have an opinion, and even cyberbullying. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about what you have seen in regards to the opinion of others that they get the confidence behind this little screen.
It's easy, like, to get confidence. No, you can't attack me. I mean, again, I'm never promoting violence. But back in our day, if you said something, there was a level of accountability that came with it. Now with social media, you can do and say as you want, and there's no per se level of accountability. You can hide behind a fake page and things like that. So I definitely think it's different. But then also I think with giving everyone access to you, because that opens up opinions. Like even a lot of celebrities have touched on that. Like fans will be saying, like, people, not fans, people who don't like them, I hope you die, or I don't like you. Like, what was it? Chrissy Teigen, I believe. She said she went through like a bout of depression after the designer guy had said something to her because of all the flood of, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry, I got a call. After all the, after all the floods of like negative comments for her, that how that weighed on her mental health. Like these can be regular people or people who don't even know you, who again can just get behind the screen and express these things.
And look, I think that's a good point, because one negative comment starts growing and it becomes 2, then it becomes 1,000, then it becomes 5,000.
And then naturally we're human. We begin to question ourselves, like, is it true? Like somebody liked that. So I mean, maybe there is some truth to that, or am I tripping?
And what is those effects, right? That's what I kind of want to ask you, Leah, is, once it becomes all this negative lash coming at you from this device because it's growing like a cancer, what can that do to someone mentally? You just mentioned depression, so that could be another one. But just let's talk a little bit about all the extremes that could happen.
I think one of the main ones is lack of productivity, because again, we don't understand how consumed we get in these phones. Like I have some people, like after we post a picture, you're on your phone, you keep checking it, you're losing focus on your task at hand. So it's a lot of lack of productivity, comparing yourself to very realistic things. And also, so it's just, again, taking from your identity and your worth, because again, if you're following so many people and consumed by them, you lose a sense of self.
Yeah, no, I think these are great points. Now, I want you to explain to us what exactly is cyberbullying. Okay, we're going to get into this depth thing because it is something real. It's serious that any parent, any loved one should take very seriously. But let's explain to those who are watching what is cyberbullying.
Oh, I think that that's going to be a difficult one to define per se, especially as technology has evolved because of the fact that before cyberbullying might just be like making negative comments about somebody under their picture, even if that's comments about themselves. Because I know the first wave of cyberbullying came after I believe it was a young student committed suicide. So I think that that's when it kind of opened up. And now it's to the point of like where they've included like posting inappropriate pictures or things like that. That's cyberbullying. So I think that it's a very expanded definition.
Yeah. And that's a real thing, especially high school, middle school. I don't know if it's happening as young as elementary, but distorted videos, distorted.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't be
pictures.
surprised. Like all these kids have cell phones now. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it is occurring at an earlier age.
Yeah, those are some things that we need to keep in mind. But kids are bullying not only in person but also cyber by loading into the portal a picture of someone and making fun of it, or even inappropriate pictures that is not likely. So now I want you to, Leah, to tell us, how is cyberbullying different from in-person bullying?
I think that how is it physically different or the impacts? Because I think the impacts are the same. I think from in-person and cyber, the impacts are the same. And I think for cyber, if not worse, because of the fact that there's the opportunity that one person can make like 3 accounts and attack you under 3 different accounts versus in person, it's just that one person. So actually, I think the impact of cyberbullying can be worse. And then unfortunately, like many millennials in today's society, everything is on the internet. So like, oh, you said something on in person, cool. I can tell somebody, but if it's online, you know how many people can re-go look at that or how many people can replay that again versus in person. It's like, oh, you caught it or you didn't, or you hear hearsay versus, oh, look exactly what happened. Did you see? Like it's still there.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. Another good point is cyberbullying is almost 24/7, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're invited to someone's home when you don't even, in person, you don't invite the bully to your house, right? But you invite this
naturally
device where that cyber bully is constantly in this device in your home when they go to bed, when they wake up. So it's almost like a 24/7 approach. And I want you, based upon what you've seen in your profession, how has this affected even some of our women, our minority women, on the cyberbullying being 24/7 and it never lets up?
I think that it has a lot to do with more with adolescents. Like a lot of adolescents are like feel by that because during that age, you want that peer support. You want that feeling of acceptance. So I think it's more prone for like adolescents and college students.
Yeah, definitely something to prepare our children and their future, right? Our children in middle school to prepare for what's coming in high school, what's coming in college.
But I think even at a young age, building that self-worth because of the fact, and this is an extreme example that I use for a lot of my clients, like Beyonce and Oprah have haters. Like you're going to come across somebody who's not going to like you. I don't like your hair short. I don't like your hair long. Like you're ugly. You're too tall. You're too fat. Like everybody's going to have something to say. So I think it's going to be in home, starting with building that core confidence. Like, okay, you're right. Like, I am a little bigger, but you know what? That's more for the loving. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or like, I love it. Like, I remember whenever people you say like, oh, you have a big head. Yeah, because my brain is big and I'm smart. Like, I think it's small things like building up that confidence because you're going to have haters and people are going to say things all the time.
Yeah, and I think those are great points, is building our kids to have a backbone, right? To have that confidence, that strength, all of that good stuff, because the world is crazy, especially on the cyber, the media, all of that good stuff. And there's a lot of media that's also maybe not true, not just in images, but also in news. We've experienced that a lot in the last year. So Leah, what are the effects that this may have, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically? What are some of the effects that you have seen, long-term or short-term?
Definitely. Oh, I didn't know if we were supposed
Yeah,
to
go
pause. I
ahead.
thought you
Yeah,
said
go
I was
ahead.
going to say something. Okay. Some of the effects definitely can, like I said before, depression, low productivity, work stress. It can cause strain in relationships, friendships, strain in your family. Because again, if I see something, if I hear something, I'm comparing, or somebody makes a comment. It can also just, again, lack of productivity, low motivation. Some people, it can even cause anxiety, cause people to not want to be as social because now I'm intimidated because I've created this unrealistic view of the outside world.
Yeah, exactly. So, and tell us, how can someone's mental health, because you would have experience in this as well, how can their mental health be affected due to social media or even cyberbullying or both?
I think that, with social media, because I don't want to just sound like horrible, social media can be positive. I think that if you can control what you have going on in your feed, social media can be positive. So it can provide encouragement. But again, if all we're seeing is negative gossip, things like this can help us change the perception of our lives, the perceptions of how we interact with people, the natural comparison, which can lead to self-doubt as well. And of course, cyberbullying, that has a lot of extreme negative effects, especially when it comes to your mental health. You know, there's depression, self-doubt. For some people, it even leads to self-harm. So the bullying, I think, any type of capacity of bullying is not good for your mental health and can have a tremendous negative impact.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we're kind of talking about social media. I think a good suggestion that I would say is giving yourself parameters on when you're going to social media. Why are you using social media? Are you using it for your business? Are you just using it for a couple of workout stuff? Or are you putting and pouring your whole life into it?
I always advocate for people to do some type of social media like detox. Whether that means go through all the pages that you're following. Is that still where your interest is? Is that still where your priorities are? Actually deleting the app from your phone, even if it's just a weekend, or if we want to start out slow every Thursday. And just even, if we start off slow, recognizing the pros and the cons. I've never had a client come back to me and told me they deleted social media from their phone and it was the worst experience of their life. Even people who use social media to depend on their business, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I missed a little bit of marketing, but wow, I was this much more productive in the office, or I was able to get this much stock redone. Like, I always encourage people to just try it and see how it improves your mood and your productivity.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Detox, go through a whole period where you're just, fasting from social media. I think that would be a great idea too. Maybe your self-care is in need of it. Now, kind of talking about one of the things that you mentioned and that could be a downfall, and you mentioned it earlier in this show, is suicide. I know, sadly, I want to say this, but suicide rates have increased due to cyberbullying, especially, and even social media. So, do you want to talk a little bit about the suicide and if you know anything as far as, or anyone that has had any experience here?
Even outside of cyberbullying, I think since COVID, suicide rates have greatly increased. So I definitely think that it's a real thing. And I think with that, it's going to be opening the conversation about mental health, or even sometimes just naturally checking in. Like, again, we're on our phone all the time, but how often are we using our phone to check in and say, how are you doing? I haven't heard from you for a while. I know COVID is, difficult, or I know you were having this issue with your parents. Like, I think just sometimes just stepping outside the box and just checking in with people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those things are super important. I know sometimes you get positive messages and you don't know the person, to where you might be like, is this creepy? Is it not? We also have to be mindful of that, because although we're giving words of encouragement, the person may not know to take it that way. So I think these are all really good points. And I want to ask you, Leah, how do we fix this problem? Right? The
I
social
think it's
media. Uh-huh.
Well, the social media, I think just limiting your parameters, but I also think about fixing the problem of like how it impacts you is going to be just changing our perspective about it, having more conversations about mental health and doing things like that. But I think it's going to be limiting your access to the season that you're in.
Yeah, I think those are great points. And also fixing the problem of lowering our suicide rate. Sometimes there are parents that they don't know what's happening in the device. All you see is your kid going like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's happening here. Are they receiving bad information? Are they being, breaking their heart? Like, what is happening to where the parents can do something? So what can parents do if their child is involved in some online bullying that they may just not know about it?
I think the first thing is going to be making sure the lines of communication are open with your child. And I think that all parents should have some idea of what their child is doing in the phone. I think that that's going to be one thing. Even if we're talking about us as adults having boundaries on our phone, I definitely think that children should have them as well. So I think the parents should put some type of restrictions on it. And then also having open dialogue. Hey, how are you and your friends getting along? If you notice that your child has randomly stopped hanging out with a group of friends or transition, like, being more inquiring and just opening the lines of communication. I think that that's going to be with cyberbullying and just like mental health in general, because a lot of people aren't prone to just check in.
Right. Now we do.
It's either I want to vent or something's going on, but like it's not often that people just want to just check in.
Yeah, no, I think you're bringing great points. And I think that's very true that we all need to be mindful of to also help someone else out, whether it's your family and your friends. Now, we do have a couple of comments that we want to bring up. So we have Renee saying, only if we could stop comparing ourselves and accept us for who we are, but it is hard.
It definitely is. But I try to tell people, maybe even before you get on social media, say one thing you like about yourself. Go look at a picture that's on your own story and say something nice about it before we go comparing ourselves or thinking the worst.
That's a great idea. And maybe not even the timeline, but your photo app here, going to looking at the last 10 photos you took of either yourself or you happy with family. I think that's a great suggestion on how you,
because we spend so much time picking out the words. My stomach looks fat. Look at that fly away. Like, let's acknowledge something positive.
Yeah. Yep. Those are great ones. Now, the next comment is Chriselle. I really believe a lot of this starts on the home, teaching kindness and not introducing things at such a young age. Also educating and preparing children for what they will deal with, teaching children of their self-worth, so what they can face these type of things.
I would 100% agree, because of the fact that, again, if you're not confident in yourself, then how do you expect others to believe you or have faith in you? So it has to start from the core. And like she said, it starts at home in your foundation. So I think it is like even the way you start your day sometimes.
Yeah. And I think, look, our parents, those that are watching right now, I think it starts from there for our babies are being at a young age, then graduate to being our teenagers, our youth, all that good stuff. And some of our parents now were also growing up in the MySpace and Facebook age range too. So that's also something to think about is, they teach what they know. That's also really good and really effective. So we want to teach everyone that we can of things that they may not know of. So another thing social media brings is online meeting. Okay. Young children end up speaking to strangers on their DMs, on video. Everything's accessible now. You could do video chat, you could do text message, you could do it all. So who, not knowing what their intentions are. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that to be very cautious. I recommend anybody to have phone conversation, use technology to your benefit, FaceTime. Like whenever I've watched like episodes of Catfish and they're like, I've never seen them, I never talked to them. It's like, how, Sway? Like there are so many methods of communication. So making sure that we're asking the right questions and then also being like intentional.
Right. Right. And as a parent,
like don't settle for anybody, you know what I'm saying? Like asking questions to make sure that this person is authentically who they say they are.
Yeah. And look, Leah, you did mention you have a son. As a parent, what can either you or parents like yourself do to protect our kids from something that's in your home, in their phone, that they, you didn't allow at one point, but how can you protect your kids from this?
I think that it's going to be having conversations. And then unfortunately, I know some parents are sad for this, but you might have to be the bad guy. I know for me, I don't let my son on his tablet that long. Even on his YouTube, there's lots of restrictions on it. He's only allotted an hour a day. So you figure out how you want to break that down. So I think it's going to be putting restrictions on it, having open conversation, even sometimes like, let me come sit down. What are you actually doing on that thing? Let me see your apps. What did you just most recently search on YouTube? Like, I think it's going to be going that extra mile. I know for some parents, it's difficult because we're just getting off work. We need to cook dinner, get ready for bed, do homework. So maybe I don't have time to do that, but I think it's going to be making sure that you have time to do that, to just make sure you know where your child is.
I think that's great suggestions. And I think I also kind of see parents nowadays becoming private investigators, because there's some apps that are masked that you think they're playing a game, but they're really chatting with others. So those
you
are
gotta watch.
We definitely do have to watch what our kids, our babies in your household are doing. So, Aaliyah, what's some advice that you would like to give someone who is watching right now that's experiencing this, that maybe did not know or did know and don't know how to go about this, or even knowing someone that's going through this? What type of advice would you give them?
The first thing is to do the social media detox. Delete it and start by identifying things that you feel positive about yourself, but eliminating yourself, even if that means keeping your phone not near you. If it means I'm gonna sit in the living room and I'm going to keep my phone all the way in my room because it's easy to just grab here, but create obstacles so that you're not actually attached to it, or maybe even find a new hobby.
Yep, those are great advice. Now, we've come to the end of the show, and I want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts here for coming on the show and really sharing not only your expertise, your opinion, and what we should do moving forward. So if you had to leave us with one more last bit, and if someone needs to get in contact with you or want to seek your services, how can they get a hold of you?
I have my contact information below, and then also what insurance I accept. So I would definitely encourage anybody to reach out to me online, email, phone, or I can be found on Instagram at Leah the Therapist, and Liaison Counseling Services on Facebook. So please feel free to reach out. And I always tell people there's no such thing as a dumb question. Anything you want to know, I'm here to just provide education. Even if you don't want to book me as a therapist, I can connect you with the right resources, because I'm all about people reaching their best potential and also making their mental health a priority.
Awesome. I think this is great. I know you're doing really great things of not just helping, our society, our minority women, but also our children. And I think that's super important that we have people like you in that space to help others. So I want to thank you for being on our show today. It's been
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And for those of you guys that are watching, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is a very serious topic that I do recommend that you do a little bit more research. What are those effects? What is it doing? What can it do? And what are those restrictions that you should put in place to have more self-care, more mental care? I think that's important, not just for you, but also for your family members. So I want to thank you guys for sharing the show. The more you share it, the more we get to educate. So thank you for tuning in. Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Madi B.
Thank y'all so much for having me.